Hello, fellow gamers. It's Jeremy coming at you again from the GameMinder Report with a bit of a follow-up after what I gave you on Monday. So, first of all, wow, thank you for all of the support. We really had no idea what to expect in terms of, putting out a call and seeing what the community thinks. And I've been kind of overwhelmed. Clearly, you guys don't want to see GameMinder go away, and neither do I. So that's cool. So I'm going to take this opportunity to address a lot of the feedback that we got directly. But before I do that, I'm going to lay out a little bit more specifically exactly what some of the hurdles were. So first and foremost, the data in the system needs maintaining. That's priority number one. Without that, there will be no second step. And I think a lot of you have realized that, since we stopped actively maintaining it on April 1st, a lot of the dates have gotten sort of fallen behind. People are reporting games. The reports are going unanswered. That's sort of, we kind of knew that going in. That's sort of the secret sauce of what makes GameMinder work is there are several automated tools in there that do a lot of the work for us. But, the nature of what it is that we're working on here is such a big problem set and such a weird moving target that you really need someone. You either need to develop a really smart AI that can literally search the entire internet to find the information, or you need an actual person looking at it, or in the case of what I'm about to list off, people. So that's priority one, getting that data maintainable. If that's maintainable, GameMinder from this point forward could just sort of live on more or less. It makes almost enough money to cover its hosting costs, so that could probably work. However, if we then find a way to keep the system up to date in the short term, priority two is to become self-supporting, as I say, or even profitable, dare I say it. The good news is that we've received a number of offers from GameMinder users to help maintain the data. Yes, I am working off of a script again. I apologize. Going with fully crowdsourced option where anyone can edit things would be nice, and that is definitely still a long-term goal. But unfortunately, as I think I mentioned on Monday, the administrative interface as it stands right now is simply not ready for prime time. It's not like Wikipedia where, everything is presented to users and then you can hit an edit button and then you edit right in place and everything just works. The system has never really been set up to work that way. So it is a separate administrative interface. And this interface is pretty rough. I mean, it gets the job done and it's not, literally entering code in a terminal, but it's still pretty rough. However, with some training, it won't actually be too hard to allow several trusted individuals into the belly of the beast, as it were. Keeping as much of GameMinder up to date as possible was essentially a part-time job for one person who was doing nothing but that. And that would be somewhere over 20 hours a week, 20 to 30 hours a week. That might seem like a lot, but when you think about it, that includes things like research. If someone reports a game and says, I swear it's going to come out on this date, following that down to make sure it's right before you actually update the system. That's sort of a lot of what that is research, tracking stuff down, posting the updates. So assuming we can divide that workload among 5 to 10 people, it should be pretty manageable for a couple of hours a week of sort of community volunteers to get it done. The trickiest part is going to be finding a good way to divvy everything up to make sure that people aren't duplicating effort. We do have a ticket tracking system, but it is expensive. And so I'm trying to find one that is not expensive that we could use that would allow people to basically say, I'm going to work on this case. It is now mine. Nobody touch it until I'm done, and then submit it when it's finished. We're going to try and find a way to do that cheaply, if possible. If you're interested in being one of these people and you have not already done so, please drop us a line. So moving on to priority number 2, making money. We've had a lot of people contact us with ideas about how to bring in money. So I'm going to go ahead and address sort of the most common ones, which should give you an idea of sort of where we're thinking in terms of moving forward. All right, so the first one, why not just put ads? Not a bad suggestion on the face of it, and in fact, some sort of ad system has always been something that was in the long-term plan. However, the ads we used to have in GameMinder, which for those of you who have been with us for a long time, remember that we did have iAd and AdMob and stuff in it at the very beginning, and they were removed because they were driving even less revenue than we're making now. Our user base is currently at least one order of magnitude too small for typical ads to drive any sort of revenue that matters in the grand scheme of things. To understand why, take a look at Ben Kuchera's article over the Penny Arcade report from, I think it was late last week. He explains a lot of the economics of ad-modeled content. We pulled the generic iAd and AdMob ads because we wanted to build out an in-house ad system that was more gaming specific and catered to the needs of game developers to speak directly to the GameMinder audience. This system would still need to be built. We started developing and the concept of how it would work, but it was a pretty hefty job, and we have not built it yet. To build this system would require a not insignificant amount of money. To do it right, I would say at least something on the order of $25,000, probably much, much more. If anyone's familiar with how Facebook ads work or Flurry ads, it's a system like that is the kind of thing that we were thinking of. And of course, this doesn't take into account getting the ads to fill such a system and making that worthwhile to the advertisers. When you add this all together, ads are not a path to short-term profitability. They may be a path to longer-term profitability. But I prefer to do them right and once rather than piecemeal and over a bunch of times. A fully funded startup with more than a year of runway could probably do it, but that is no longer us for the moment. Investors, get in touch now. All that being said, we may decide to do this even if just to drive the tiniest little bit of additional revenue in the short term, but probably not. Let people donate. Similar to the above advertising discussion, this may be a good short-term way to bring in some cash, but it is not a sustainable business model. Additionally, while I very much appreciate how much love people have been showing us this week, I am a strong believer in providing value for your money, and there is no real connection between a donation and what you would be getting for it. I prefer to say, here's what we think this costs. If that is of value to us, give us money rather than give us what you feel like. That's just maybe that's a failing of my own, but that's a personal preference. Many people have commented that we are already providing a lot of value and that we're not charging for it, and that is true. But like I said, I'm not sure simply asking for people to give any amount of money is necessarily a good idea. But we'll get to more of that concept later when we talk about the crowdfunding option. All right, option number 3, make the app a paid service. Another solid idea in a vacuum. A lot of people said they'd be willing to pay $1. Some others said they'd be willing to pay $5. But examining the numbers, I'm not sure how sustainable that would be. So as I said in the last update to you, we have total membership of around 27,000. Let's say every one of those people paid $1. That gives us $27,000. This is a group that has been built up over about 2.5 years. And that would essentially be a yearly salary of about $10,000. It would keep the business, it would keep the actual service running, but it is not, again, a profitable, sustainable business model. And so, and especially when you consider the fact that that would be if it was literally everybody paid. And as we all know, when something goes from free to paid, it's some smaller percentage of people that are actually willing to pay. All right, now, here's one that was interesting. Make it a tiered subscription service. Now, this is an idea that we had barely considered before, but it is one that we are actively exploring right now. We could do something so that maybe your first 5 reminders are free, which gives people the opportunity to try the service, see how it works, and then over and above that requires some sort of yearly or monthly subscription of some sort. The average number of reminders, as I mentioned in the last episode, per user is 14. So this could conceivably drive a decent amount of revenue, or it could be that people will simply use the service less. We won't know until we do it. One of the things I was actually just discussing with somebody today is the fact that when you think about the type of person who uses GameMinder, they are probably more likely than the average person to spend money on games. And therefore, they are probably also more likely to spend money on a service like this because it is, in fact, a very useful tool when the data is updated. So anyway, this is a direction I could very much see us going. We're exploring it actively as we speak. All right, the next option. You should just ask GameStop, Rooster Teeth, IGN, or somebody else to buy you. Now, this is a tricky one. We've had several conversations with potential purchasers over the last year or two. As you have rightly observed, what GameMinder does is valuable, especially to gamers and companies that serve gamers. Now, while most of these conversations fizzled of their own accord, I have also always been reticent to simply sell out unless we found the exact perfect partner. And I will share with you the reason for that. The reason for that is that the Minder concept was never intended to be only for games. In fact, when I started Handelabra, I wasn't sure whether to do GameMinder or FilmMinder first. We actually settled on GameMinder because we mistakenly, it turns out, assumed that the video game release cycle would be a simpler one than the movie release cycle. Movies have, they come out in the theaters, but then they also come out on home video and streaming and iTunes. We thought that would be more complicated because games just come out once. Oh, wait, that's not true either. Games come out on Xbox or PlayStation or PC, maybe now Ouya or Android or iOS. Maybe the Game of the Year edition comes out. Maybe there's downloadable content. There's all sorts of added gotchas in there that we had not originally planned for, which is one of the reasons why we had to build out GameMinder so much more last year. So the overarching goal was to create a system that could handle one type of media, games, and then expand the model into others like movies and books and bands. If we were to sell it to a gaming company, the dream that I had originally had of a system that could track and inform just about anything, inform people about just about any type of media, would be essentially lost, at least from a branding perspective, if not from an implementation perspective. So, excuse me, the new backend that was launched in December does take some significant steps toward this goal. Obviously, at this point, we have little choice in the matter regarding selling. Time has made a lot of these choices for us. If someone came up to us and offered us what we consider to be a decent purchase price, we would probably just sell at this point. And if you have any connections with companies that might consider a purchase of GameMinder, please get in touch with them or us or both. And thank you for the suggestions that you have already sent us. One final note on this, we have had a couple different requests for what sort of price we'd be looking for to sell the entire system. What I will tell you is this. Hold on to your hats. We have spent probably more than $200,000 or $250,000 building GameMinder. So do with that what you will. But by all means, feel free to make me an offer. That is not saying that that is what we would ask for. That's just saying what it has cost us up to this point. All right, finally, yes. Do a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo. Crowdfunding is a remarkable tool, but it is just that. It is a tool. If your goal with a crowdfunding campaign is simply get money, then you're doing it wrong. We've worked with several companies that have been successful and unsuccessful using crowdfunding, and we've seen what works and what doesn't. GameMinder right now is essentially a concept in search of a business model. As such, in my opinion, the only way a crowdfunding campaign would help would be if it funded the development of something that puts a successful business plan in place. So hence, asking for money just so that we don't go under does not seem like a good use of crowdfunding. So, like by way of example, let's say we determine that it would cost, say, $25,000 to build out our in-house advertising system. We then do a Kickstarter, raise the money, build the system. Without a much larger audience, we'd be right back where we started after several months have passed. We'd have a nice piece of code that can run the ads, but not a big enough audience for those ads to generate the revenue that we would need. One way that I could see a crowdfunding campaign working is if we were to use it to build the subscription concept that I mentioned a few steps back. This is something that could be manageable. It's a small enough project size. There is some trickiness in terms of determining what would go into GameMinder Premium. But it would be probably manageable in project size, could reasonably be built in a relatively small amount of time, and it also would therefore have some built-in rewards. So like for X dollar of Kickstart or Indiegogo funding, you get this many months or years of premium subscription once it goes live. I'm hoping to explore further how we can make this work and report back on this soon. So that is a rundown of the most popular arguments for and against the various revenue-generating options that have been suggested to us over the week. Obviously, some of them are ones we had considered. Some of them are ones that we had not considered. And we're, sort of sifting through them all as we go. And as I said right at the top of the show, none of those will matter in the slightest if we don't get data management under control. So that is priority number one right now. If you have already contacted us to offer your help on the data management front, I will be reaching out to you in the next couple of days. If you would like to help but have not yet reached out, please do so by visiting us at GameMinderReport.com/contact and say, I would like to help with the data management. Just so that everybody knows, the basic skills you will need to be able to handle helping us with the data management system are pretty rudimentary. Basic internet research skills, and the ability to work with an admittedly overly complex set of web forms. If and when those of you who are interested are introduced to the back end, please promise not to laugh. As I said, it gets the job done, but it is definitely not the kind of a thing that you'd expect to be able to be used by the entire GameMinder community. It's the kind of thing that requires some training. It requires some understanding of the data structure of the data underneath, how we store games and release dates and publishers and all this sort of stuff. We plan, again, we have big plans to make that cleaner, but we haven't done it yet. So that's where we're at. Once again, let me say rousing thank you. I was completely blown away. I ended up having to basically cancel everything I was planning on doing Monday night and just simply respond. I tried to make sure I responded to every single email that came in. I know I'm still missing a few, but I promised to respond to every single one of you. Thank you so much. I think we're on the right track here. I do think that there's a really good chance that GameMinder is going to live to see another day. And this is on top of all the other things I'm already doing, like asking other people for money or looking for investors, as well as other avenues that we are pursuing. So thank you once again. I'm hoping that we can make this work for you guys. And as always, don't forget to play.